Well, I think I might actually be onto something definite at last here. And I've got the cam bearing or bush housing removed. These aren't just little round covers over the ends of the camshaft area. They actually house the bushes that the camshaft runs in as well. And as you can see, I've removed this one. I took the precaution of making sure that there's neither of the inlet valves are held in any way open. Neither of them have got any weight on them, because I didn't want the camshaft to have the pressure of an open valve working against it and maybe forcing it downwards when I pulled the cover out. So that was one precaution I took. But look at the oil running down there. Clearly the camshaft housing contains quite a lot of oil, and for a considerable time after the engine's been stopped. Those three holes are blind, they don't go right through. So I'm going to clean up this lot around here, and obviously that, and put new sealant on there and put it back, and hopefully that'll be the end to the oil leak, which has run down there, as you can see. Obviously with the inner primary chain case in place, it wouldn't have run down across here, it would have diverted that way. I've seen it starting from there, from underneath, because I wouldn't have been able to see in there, and there is a little black mark there. There's a little something in the casting which I thought might have been a pinhole, but now I don't think so, because nothing came out of that. I've had the this area all cleaned up for some time before I removed this cap bush housing, and nothing appeared from down there. So I don't think we are losing oil from the tank after all. I think it was coming from this, which somebody did suggest that, and I remembered in the first instance when I was putting this engine into the frame and putting it back together, I definitely checked those three Allen screws were tight, because that one there is obscured by the inner primary chain case. I remember doing that, but obviously the gasket or sealant or whatever wasn't up to it, and there was a slight leak, and there it is. So I'm going to get this lot cleaned up, new sealant put on it, or a gasket. If I need to make up a gasket, I'll make up a gasket. I'll have a look in the parts book and see if a gasket was ever listed for them. If it was, I'll make one, because I certainly haven't got one. Not difficult to make one, and hopefully at last that should be an end to it. But I never realised that that would hold so much oil as it did for so long after the engine has run. But if ever you're taking these, removing these caps, bush housings for whatever reason, always make sure that the neither of the valves are partially open. There is just a brief period in the rotation of the camshaft and the engine where the weight is off both of them, and I've got it in that position now, so I know that the valve springs are not forcing the rockers and the push rods and followers down onto the end of the camshaft and trying to twist it out the way. So I'll clean everything up, put it back together, and I think I'll be rebuilding the primary drive and everything, because I really think this time we've got it. And someone did suggest this, like I say, I'm not too big to admit that, but I didn't for 1 minute suspect it, because I knew I'd tightened those three screws quite a while back in the process of putting this engine back into the frame and building up the primary side. But obviously the gasket or sealant, whatever, wasn't up to the job, and it's allowed a small leak all this time, and we've blamed this area between the main bearing and the main bearing seal, the void space when the engine's been wet sumped. I even suspected this incidentally, this stud does go into a hole that goes right through, as I demonstrated I think on that spare engine. I could push a rod right through, so that's not a blind hole either. But I think finally, after trying all these things, finally got it. Fingers crossed.